What's going on YouTube? JT Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about DC Universe Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods, issue number 4. We are finally done with Lazarus Planet. My goodness, this event technically really ended with Batman vs. Robin number 5. There's no reason for this Lazarus Planet thing to be called, like, this whole Revenge of the Gods thing should not have been titled Lazarus Planet. That checklist was just a load of crap. This had almost nothing to do with Neza or anything like that, just kind of little hints that the Lazarus Reign affected things, but that's about it. Like, we didn't need this to be part or titled Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods. Just call it Revenge of the Gods, take Lazarus Planet right out of the title, because the main event and that was over. So now that I got that little rant out of the way, how does the story itself hold up? Well, I wasn't too huge a fan of it. Now, I'm coming in this from the perspective of somebody who has generally not been reading the current stuff on Wonder Woman. And with the way the story's been handled in this thing as a whole, I take it I'm not missing out on too much. But then again, sometimes with events and the tie-ins to that, they're generally not as good because they're bogged down by this whole event thing. But even from the little bits I saw, there really wasn't much of value. Yes, there's some nice looking artwork, but a lot of the story stuff was just kind of not the greatest. Even the way this thing ended, like, because I think this past weekend I reviewed the latest issue of Wonder Woman, which the whole Lazarus Planet thing was going to be concluded from that story to this one. But they gave away some spoilers basically at the end of that issue before we got to the final confrontation between Wonder Woman and Hera and that with this whole thing, and that was just really annoying. I didn't see the point to include that backup the way they did, but of course they did. So it's like, okay, I know Wonder Woman's going to win in some fashion. I mean, granted, I know with solicitations and other events upcoming, but from a story perspective, giving that away before you get to your main climax, I think is just kind of dumb. So yeah, we got this story right here. So many different creatives: G. Willow Wilson, Becky Clooney, Michael W. Conrad. Like, there's a whole list of different people working on this. There's 3 main stories right here. There's the main story, Wonder Woman versus Hera. Wonder Woman's been empowered by Shazam. Everyone else is just kind of in the background, not really doing much. Like, Yara Flor and all that does absolutely like nothing this entire issue. Like, what's the point of having her in here if she's just gonna stand around in the background? Like, everyone else just kind of stands around. Billy does this thing, Mary gave up her powers for Diana, but it's still not enough for Hera, and then she kind of taps into the power of something to overcome it, because the goddess can call upon the power of all who serve her for whatever reason. Apparently that gives her power of some sorts. I don't exactly know how it all works. Why Wonder Woman doesn't use this before, I don't know. That's going to be like me just questioning it. So Hera's defeated. She's pretty much banished. They give them this hand to assure the mortal realm that, hey, us gods aren't going to interfere anymore or whatever. Hera's pretty much banished from Olympus or whatnot. Yara Flor did absolutely nothing this whole issue. Billy tries to hit on her, and it gets shot down pretty badly. Hera is pretty much banished from Olympus at this point. I guess the wizard has something to do with that. Why the wizard? I don't know. Yeah, the wizard too. Like, I thought he was infected with Lazarus Reign, but it makes it seem out to be like, hey, sorry, Billy, and all of that. I was affected by this whole storm, and it's got me going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or whatnot. But it's not really like established within this story. And then of course Hera's basically cast out at this point. We had the stuff on Themyscira with Hades and all that. The Amazonians get into a fight, and then Queen Nubia at the end is just like, it's time we Amazons control our destiny, even though you've pretty much been doing that from the whole time. Because that's what the Amazons do. They made the choice to be cut off from the rest of the world, despite the fact that they have embassies and all that other stuff. And of course, they freak out when anyone else dares come into their place, but they can go anywhere else. I just love the hypocrisy of places like this in comics or whatever. So yeah, they're off doing their thing. Then in the backup, it's Billy and Mary kind of complaining. The wizard comes down. Keep in mind, the wizard was just teamed up with Hera, and he's been causing all these other problems for everyone. There's no like, hey, no apology from him about the fact that he was just an asshole the whole time, threatening to kill a bunch of people. At one point, like, even Billy, like, there's no real acknowledgement. You son of the gods, I don't care. At some point you lost faith in me, and you must have a reason. Maybe I was unworthy, or maybe I was acting this way. I don't know. And then Billy just tries to give up his whole like powers to give it to Mary, because she lost her powers when she gave them to Diana. And then the wizard has to determine who's worthy. But yeah, like, the whole thing with the wizard, it's just, okay, I thought I was under the impression that he was under the influence of Lazarus Reign. Maybe that's why he snapped. But no, it just seems like he's kind of normal. And yeah, he seemingly sided with the gods to inflict all these problems on the world. So, I mean, I wouldn't trust this guy at this point. Like, who is he to determine who's worthy after causing all these problems beforehand, if you will? Yeah, but basically, so it was just kind of annoying, if you will. And then, of course, like, he's going to give them both, like, some sort of powers back. But then I think it was, like, Queen Hippolyta or whatever comes in here, and we get some of these cringy dialogue right here. And for you, so he's like, if you wouldn't allow it, I'd have... So basically, he's talked about acting unworthy and all that other stuff. And then basically Hippolyta or whatever comes in. If you would allow it, I have something to return to you, Billy Batson, as Mary Brumfield, Wizard Shazam, fool. She has no need for your secondhand gifts, for Mary Marvel stands in no man's shadow. Yes, that's right. It's still the real anti-man messaging within this book. And again, I get they're Amazonians, but I thought, like, Wonder Woman and all that was all about equality in that. But no, I mean, it's just like, just the fact that, you know, you can't get help or anything from a man, because that's just bad. So Mary gets her own version of the Shazam powers from the Amazonian gods, if you will, and then that's kind of where the whole thing kind of ends. I'm not sure what the big difference is with this whole thing, but that's it. So she gets her own powers from it because man bad, if you will. But yeah, so she's got powers, Billy's got powers, and that's basically where the event's ending, and things are going to pick up in Shazam #1, which I'm sure will be so much better than this, because Mark Waid is writing that, and you got Dan Moore on the artwork, which is great, because I really, like I said, there's the advertisement right here. Written by Mark Waid, art by Dan Moore. Sold right there. If you haven't been reading Batman Superman World's Finest, that book is fantastic. It's far better than this thing. And that's pretty much Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods in the nutshell. And again, I'm coming this from the perspective of somebody who hasn't been reading Wonder Woman. I'm just kind of reading strictly what's based in this whole event situation right now. And I wasn't that impressed. Yeah, there's some nice looking artwork and some designs. There's maybe like one issue I didn't mind where it was pretty much just pure action. But some of the other characters do almost absolutely nothing. Like Yara Flor, she just does nothing this entire issue. I mean, he had this big thing. It was like, oh, it's going to be Wonder Woman versus Hera. Why nobody jumped in to help out, for the most part, is just beyond me. No Yara trying to, like, no team-ups or anything like that. It's just Wonder Woman, and then she's just able to call on some power out of nowhere to just get even stronger, despite the fact that she's been fused with the powers of Shazam. And that, on top of that, is she losing those? Is she going to give them back? Like, how exactly does this all work? I don't know. Maybe Wonder Woman will have those powers going forward, but it's like she's supercharged now. So yeah, there's just a lot of things that just I found a little questionable. Didn't really care much for the backup. Billy was kind of written to be really dumb throughout this arc. But, you know, he's still, at least, like, him and Mary were at least more likable than some of the characters. Ares is there. He's going to go off and do his own thing as well. And, yeah, the Amazons are going to continue to do their thing. And I'm going to do my thing and just not bother to read the next part of Wonder Woman for a bit, unless I hear really good things about it. Because, like I said, this whole crossover event didn't impress me all that much. So I think the next, like, solo Wonder Woman thing I'll read is probably, like, the Night Terrors event, which, my goodness, that's gonna be like 50 comic books coming up soon. That's gonna be a lot of comics to read between July and August. So be on the lookout for that stuff when that hits. But now that this is done, officially done with all this event stuff for a few months at least, and thankfully, because I am at event fatigue right now. We went to Dark Crisis, then immediately went to Lazarus Planet. So it's been like the past couple of months where there's just been nonstop events. I don't mind mini events so much every once in a while, but my goodness, DC, slow down, because you just overdid it so much with between these like 2 events back to back. This last part didn't have anything to do with the main story with Neza and everything. No members of the Justice League or anybody else really shows up in this whole Revenge of the Gods thing, even though these gods are threatening to take down like the whole planet. There's no cameo from Batman. There's no cameo from Superman or anything like that. There's no real after the effects of, besides the fact that everyone kind of teamed up a bit to stop Neza and all that. Nobody comes to the aid of Wonder Woman and all that outside of just the characters in her book. Yeah, so calling this Lazarus Planet was a mistake. Should have just called it something else entirely, but I wasn't a huge fan of this thing, and I'm just glad that Lazarus Planet is over. I'm good. I'm done. The only stuff you really needed to read in this entire event, I covered every single issue, mind you, was the main Lazarus Planet, was Alpha, Omega, and like Monkey Prince and Batman vs. Robin. That's it. That's all you needed. You didn't need all these various 8 million tie-ins. You didn't really need to read the Wonder Woman thing. If you're just looking for something just titled Lazarus Planet, it has nothing to do with the main story that we came before it. It just the branding of this is it just confuses me. Should have just called it Revenge of the Gods, and that should have just been a whole separate thing. Had nothing to do with Lazarus Planet, almost absolutely nothing. Maybe like one thing with somebody getting like kind of tampered with a little bit, but that could have just led into a completely different event altogether. Kind of like how Dark Crisis or Shadow War and all that just kind of built up and led into Batman versus Robin and the Lazarus Planet event. So I'm just glad this event's over. I know I've reiterated that countless times, but I'm ready for a nice little break from DC events until we get back into July, where they are going to really overdo it with every title just being Night Terrors, Night Terrors, Night Terrors tie-in. But at least they're not going to like take over the main books. They're going to just give a break to those and then just title them Night Terrors 1 and 2, so that way you're not entirely confused when you're trying to go back and read them or something like that. So I appreciate that aspect at least, so thank you for that, DC. But as it stands right now, I'm just glad this event's over. Wasn't a huge fan of at least the second half. There's a few good moments in this event overall, but much like Dark Crisis and this, I feel like it's been so long since there's been a good huge event that I've really liked that's really crossed over a lot of titles. I mean, Shadow War, I enjoyed some of it, but it wasn't perfect. But the last, I feel like, event that I really liked for us a bunch of times was the first Dark Knight's Metal, because Dark Knight's Death Metal, that one kind of sucked, but the first one I actually liked. But it's been a long time since there's been a really good event. I mean, there's been some crossover stuff which I've enjoyed here and there, but a really good event at DC that just captivates me from start to finish. So like I said, glad that this thing's done. If you have any thoughts on the issue, let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, all that other fun stuff. I've rambled on long enough. In terms of other videos for this week, you probably won't see anything from me for the rest of the week. I got kind of a bit of a busier week coming up here, so probably not till next Tuesday, maybe. So yeah, I mean, you'll see some stuff coming up then, I'm sure. But in the meantime, it's going to be a little bit of a break for the rest of the week, unless I just happen to get something out. You never know. I did try to get a lot of things out between Sunday and yesterday and today. So, I mean, so if you want to go catch up on some old stuff, and then I'll be back again probably next week with more stuff. Chances are you probably won't see another after the movie or something like that, because like I said, this is a bit of a busy week for me. So unless I can find time for something, but as it stands, I'll be back again next week. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it. Like, subscribe to the channel, all that other fun stuff, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.